Hello, how are you today? Well, you're welcome to another section with Dr. Temiloluwa Ajibade on business research. So this week, we would be talking about ethics in research, basically just mentioning research ethics. All right, so now, in the past week, we've discussed the introduction to research, we've discussed the types of research, we've discussed the research philosophies. When it comes to literature, we're able to discuss literature review, looking at the CRAP test, which is currency, relevance, accuracy, authority, and we look at plagiarism in research. We look at research designs and data collection in research. Now, today, what we'll be discussing is the research ethics, and then we look at the key issues. We look at the research ethics principles. We look at the GDPR. You'll be knowing the meaning of GDPR in the course of the lecture. And then, yeah, the university, that's the Leeds Trinity University, have some rules guiding research. We'll be going through that. Then we have the structure of dissertation, the structure of a systematic review, the structure of original empirical research, and secondary data analysis. And so, however, before we continue, there are concerns from last week where we were discussing about um, research objectives and aims and objectives. And so I really want you to, what I want you to do is as you prepare for your group, as you prepare for your group presentation, I want you to break out into your groups or you work in group. If you are not able to do that, I want you to pick a sheet of paper and derive a research question that is from the given objective. Remember, I told you from the previous class that when you are forming a research question, you look at the objective. The research question must be in line with the research objective. So the purpose of this activity is just to allow you form a research question from the given objectives. So yeah, you have say few minutes to do that. All right. So let's give it a try. Now, if for instance I take this first objective and I want to form a research question from it. The objective says to identify the acceptability of joint bank accounts among couples in the UK. So basically, I can just say, remember, before I give the answer, I said there are some words you can use. You can use what, you can use how, you can use why. Basically, your research question should not be a question that will give you a yes or no question. And so let's try to derive a research question here is to what extent do couples accept joint bank accounts in the UK? The second one we can say, how does joint bank accounts influence civil relationships in the UK? You can see this way, the way the questions I have given now, in a way, they are not questions that give yes or no questions. So the second one, for instance, which I mentioned now is, I said, how does joint bank accounts influence civil relationships in the UK? The first one I said, to what extent do couples accept joint bank accounts in the UK? So you can see these are different ways of forming um, research questions from research objectives. All right. So going forward to today's topic, what is your understanding of ethics? Now, I want you to use your own word, just one word or two words to explain your opinion of ethics. Now think of that. While we go, while we go on, take a minute to just try to get that down in a sheet of paper, your own understanding before we go to the next slide. All right. Going to the next slide, basically, we can say ethics are moral principles and values that influence the way a researcher conducts his research activities. That's basically his research ethics. So we'll say ethics are probably they are ethics are morals, principles, and standards, and they influence the way a researcher conducts his or her research activities. So having gotten the understanding of what research ethics is, we would say that it is important in research that people who conduct research know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. It is important that researchers, as you conduct your research, you know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. There is a video there that you can watch in your spare time to have more understanding about this this topic, that is the research ethics. Now, going forward, we would say there are some ethical issues that arise from research. Now we have a list of ethical issues. Well, the first point here is that the research problem itself can be an ethical issue. So as researchers, you need to be careful. Now, looking at, for instance, when you are doing research on modern slavery, you know that slavery itself has ethical issues surrounding it. Now, another ethical issue is the settings in which the research is taking place. The research settings, sometimes researchers need to be careful to ensure that they are not breaking ethical rules when it comes to conducting their research. The procedures required by the research design. Now, it is also very important that you look at it, that you are complying with ethical guidelines when you are following procedures, because you wouldn't want to do procedures that have negative impacts on participants. Your method of data collection also should it should be ethically, followed, because when you are collecting data, be sure you're not stealing data. You need to have the consent or permission of the community members. Now, another point is that research participants who may be vulnerable and powerless to resist the study have to be um, how should I put it now? That is, when it comes to participants that are vulnerable, one needs to follow some ethical procedures and guidelines to ensure that you are not breaching their rights. You are not, and then you have full consent. For instance, when we talk of vulnerable people, you are talking of children, you are talking of um elderly people that cannot make decisions by themselves. Yeah, we are talking of the homeless. Now you know that when you have these people, there are some people that are responsible for them. And so every necessary consent and permission must be considered before a research is conducted using this category of people. All right, going forward, we have some other issues. We have the type of data collected. Now, and there are ethical issues surrounding the type of data collected. Is it personal data? Is it sensitive data? You know that there are some ethical guidelines that one needs to be careful of so that you are not breaking these guidelines. So some other things that can give rise to ethical issues is the communication of results. Now, if the results is communicated wrongly, even though the results are correct and genuine, but if they are communicated wrongly, then there might be an issue. So you have to follow ethical guidelines when communicating results in research. Another issue that might ethical issue that might arise It's from the pressure that some external agencies might place on researchers or the participants. Now, these are the things that you will need also to consider. Well, we have disclosure, for instance, where you have disclosure policies guiding an organization, and they might not, so the member of staff might not be comfortable giving you from information, and you probably might need this information for your research. So you see, you have ethical guidelines. So you need to follow the necessary procedure to ensure that you are collecting data from when you are collecting data from participants, or when you are asking them questions. You need to be sure that they themselves, you are not pushing them to break their organization rules. And also you need to consider the kind of pressures that some agencies might be. Well, some pressures are genuine, some are just unnecessary. So, but you need to ensure that you have full grasp of what you want to do. Now, misinterpretation of people's experience based on culture, based on background, based on the norms, one needs to be careful. For instance, now let's say because you see someone from a particular culture, you now make a general assumption that everyone from that culture behaves like that, or everyone from that culture is like that based on your experience. No, you need to be open-minded so that you would not give a wrong conclusion about a particular subject matter. So now, some key issues that we need to take into consideration is in research ethics is how we treat people when we conduct research. This is very, very important. How do we treat people? We need to understand that we are humans. Humans need to be treated with dignity and respect. And this is very, very important. And so now, are there any activities in which we should or we should not engage in when we are relating with people that are participating in research? These are very important issues that we need to take into consideration. All right, so now going forward, sorry, going forward, we are looking at some ethical principles in research. We have some ethical principles in research that we'll be talking about. We have integrity and objectivity of the research, respect for others. This all actually came from the key issues from the research: respect for others, avoidance of harm, privacy of those taking part in the research, the voluntary nature of participation and the right to withdraw, informed consent of those that are taking part in the research. All right. So going forward, we see when we talk of the we also have some other ones: ensuring confidentiality of data and maintenance of anonymity of those taking part, responsibilities in the analysis of data and reporting of findings, compliance in the management of data, which is the GDPR, and also we have the ensuring the safety of the researcher. Now, looking at objectivity and integrity of the research. Now, every research has to be open. You have to be objective. You have to ensure, or you have to avoid deception, dishonesty, or misrepresentation of data and findings. And where it is necessary, you have to avoid any conflict of interest or commercial association. And where you need to declare, you need to declare it. Now, for instance, integrity is where if you are given an incentive um, to someone to participate in research, you have to ensure that you truly are giving the incentives. And don't make people believe that if they participate in a research, you would give incentives, and after the research, you did not give it. So you are not being honest. So when it comes to if you give incentive, let them know, okay, for you to participate, we'll give you incentive. If you'll not be giving incentive, declare that you will not be given incentives. However, there is a controversial issue. When you say that if you do this survey, you have the chance of winning a particular thing. It's a chance, well, If that's why I said it's controversial to me, in my opinion, because, for instance, how will I know that I truly have really qualified for that voucher or for a particular incentive? Because you say, if I participate, I have a chance. And so, where about four people participate, every one of us would be thinking, oh, yeah, we all have a chance. And so, eventually, the researcher might not even give any incentive, or because of there's a caption of, yeah, you have a chance of getting this, but eventually everybody will be thinking, oh, maybe I didn't get, maybe I didn't get it. But the truth of the matter is that the researcher never gave it. And so we have to, every research has to be open. Okay, another point is avoidance of harm, where there is possibility of someone being harmed. Please, in research, try to avoid this. It's because harm may occur through risk to emotional well-being, mental or physical harm, or social, it might be social or group cohesion. It may take various forms like when embarrassment, for instance, discomfort, stress, or even pain. So in a case where you see that the research, especially when you're dealing with a participant and you see that that person is not comfortable, please, it is expected that you disengage the participants and avoid. These are ethical principles. Now, another thing is respect for others. You have to, just like I said, you are in research, we are humans, and humans must be treated with respect, no matter the background or sexual orientation. Everybody, both the researcher and research participants, must be treated with respect. If someone is telling you some basic things, ensure that you treat those information gotten with trust. So we have, as researchers, we have the responsibility of showing respect to every participant. So the right of every person should be recognized and their dignity preserved and respected. All right. So going forward, we have voluntary nature of participation and right to withdraw. The summary of this is that one should not be forced or coerced to participate in any research. And even though someone has volunteered to participate in a research and that person at any point feels uncomfortable, that person should be free to disengage from the research. Research should not be with any pressure or coercion or force or deception. Voluntary participation and free withdrawal should be encouraged in research. Now, another thing is informed consent. Informed consent, this is very, very important because this involves researchers providing sufficient information and assurance about taking part to understand the limitation of participation and to reach a full, informed, and consider if and freely giving decision about whether or not to participate. So one should give informed consent, or you should informed consent should be obtained from the participants. So let them know, let them know what the research is about. And you have to obtain their consent to carry on with the research. And where you've not obtained that consent, it is advised that you don't continue with the research. All right, going forward, we have another point. Okay, still on informed consent. Now, in the past, there is a participant information sheet, and this participant information sheet should contain the aim of and the nature of the research, the requirements of taking part, the implication of taking part, and the right of those taking part, the use of the data, and the way in which the data would be used and reported, whom to contact if there is any concerns and questions about the research. So the next one is ensuring confidentiality of data and maintenance of anonymous. Some people, obviously, many of us, when we put ourselves in a position of a research participant, We always, even though we want to participate to some extent, we want to be anonymous, and we want an assurance that our data would be dealt with with confidentiality. And so this is something that every researcher must ensure, that there is confidentiality, and that participants, except otherwise stated by the participant, if that participant does not mind, you must maintain anonymity, and confidentiality. All right. Going forward, we have the responsibility in the analysis of data and reporting of findings. Data should be collected correctly and analyzed accurately. Because a wrong analysis and wrong collection of data would give a wrong result, and a wrong conclusion would be gotten from that result. So as a researcher, you have the responsibility of getting the right data and analyzing it correctly, and analyze and reporting the findings accurately. Now the ethical issues here is that, for instance, where in a student, where you are collecting a research for a particular year and you don't get it, instead of declaring that you don't have a research for, say you are collecting data from 2012 to 2023, and you can't find the data for 2023. Say you are collecting data on homeless, on the let's see now, on, yeah, data on homeless, on the homeless in Birmingham. And now, because you were not able to get data for the 2023, now you decided to use the data for um, illegal immigrants to augment that data. You see that you are combining two wrong data, and it is ethically wrong. And so you need to ensure that you're collecting the right data. Don't use if the data are not available, let people know that the data are not available. Don't falsify results, don't falsify data. All right. Okay, going forward, ensuring the safety of researchers are important. So researchers may face, when involved in a close social interaction, they may face risk, or they may face risk of physical threats and abuse. But now, we have to ensure, as a researcher, you need to put in place safety measures for yourself, and also for people participating in your research. Okay. Another thing is, remember we mentioned this GDPR. The meaning is the General Data Protection Regulation. There is a general data protection regulation in the UK. That's where we have the EU, and then we have the UK as a 2018, which governs the process of holding or using personal data in the UK. Although these regulations are not designed specifically for research, but in research practice, we need to follow these rules, these principles of GDPR, so that we would not put ourselves in trouble, and we will not get entangled into any ethical dilemma. All right. So now another thing is, when it comes to data protection principles, there are some principles that guide data protection. You have lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. You have the purpose limitation, data minimization, accuracy, storage limitation, integrity and confidentiality, and accountability. These are the principles in the data protection, that's the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. All right. So now we now have to start saying that what counts as personal data. We have things, and when it comes to personal data, we have the name, you have the person, date of birth. This includes some generic or biometric, or even online data if unique to, and that is unique to an individual. All right. So another thing is the rule of, what's the rule of the university concerning research. Now, if you are collecting a primary data, remember, well, from data, I said there is secondary data and there is primary data. The secondary data, you are using existing data like official statistical data from the government or some other already available public data. Now, but when you are collecting primary data, you are going there and you are collecting from individuals. So now the rule of the university is that if you collect primary data from an individual, the name of this individual needs to stay anonymous unless you obtain an express letter from this individual allowing you to use their name. Another thing is research using social media, information, or blogs needs to obtain consent from the participants and inform them of your research and get their consent to use their formal codes. Another thing about the rule is that in case of secondary data, you need to make sure you use the data in accordance to the guidance of the provider. For instance, now, let's say the National Bureau of Statistics has provided a particular data on unemployment rate. Now, you should be sure that you are just using that in relation to unemployment. Don't falsify data. Don't use unemployment rate as inflation rate. It is very wrong. Don't use unemployment rates. Don't use immigrants, the data on illegal immigrants for data on homeless. They are two different things, and so data in secondary research should be used correctly. Now, for your dissertation, it is required that you complete the ethical form, even if you are not using data in your project. So the form is designed to ensure that the students understand how to handle data in ethical manner. All right, so now this is just saying, and this is just talking about the research processes, the 5 broad phases in the research processes. It goes around an idea, literature review, you identify the research gap, you see what is the research design or approach you're using to fill the questions. Then you analyze, and then it brings about another problem again, and you go through that circle. Now, in conclusion, we have the different forms of research, just as displayed here. We have evidence-based using primary data. This one can either be qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, you are using interviews, observations, focus groups. Quantitative, you are using questionnaires, that's survey. Evidence-based, using secondary research. That one, you can use qualitative from annual reports, websites, to make conclusions. And then you have quantitative, which is your online data set. Now you have systematic literature review. This one is when you are collecting data and you are more like a desktop. We call it a desktop research. You are collecting data, no analysis required, where you're just trying to reach a conclusion from several articles written or research book written to reach a conclusion. All right, all right. So, sorry, the last point, I think I modeled it off. It says when you're collecting research, when you are conducting research using existing literatures, that is, you are collecting articles based on a particular subject matter, different articles from different authors of, on a particular subject matter. That's the systematic literature review. You are collecting it in a systematic way to reach a reasonable conclusion. All right, this brings us to the end of today's class, which has to do with research, ethics in research. And remember that we've been able to discuss the key issues in research. So now, believe you understand what research ethics is, which we say that it is the moral principles guiding how you as a researcher conduct research. We've identified some research ethics principles. We've spoken about the General Data Protection Regulation, which is GDPR, and then we've spoken about the rules of the university and guiding research as a student. All right. Thank you very much for attending to this section. See you in the next section. Bye.